members and to those who were actually attending the event itself. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about agricultural shows. In the UK, agricultural shows have undergone somewhat of a transition. We do have some trade events which are particularly for agribusiness, but there's a long history of agricultural shows whereby farmers can hear about new innovations. Lord Cook of Holkham of Norfolk started the first agricultural show with his 3-day sheep shearing competition, and farmers shared ideas and got to network and hear about new things, and gradually that morphed into an agricultural event. As there have been pressures on these kinds of events, they've had to move a bit away from agriculture and more into a public offering, retail opportunities, flower shows, dog shows. And certainly in Norfolk, and I think in a lot of the UK, there's been a feeling that the heart of agriculture has actually been lost a little bit. So we were asked by the Royal Norfolk Agricultural Association to try and bring innovation back into the Royal Norfolk Show. And I'm going to run a series of photographs which culminate in the Secretary of State for Agriculture, current Secretary of State for Agriculture in the UK, who visited the Innovation Hub at the Royal Norfolk Show in June. So I'll just run and let those pictures show. So we've had members of the public, members of the media, we've had dignitaries, businesses looking at drones, looking at technologies to maintain moisture in the soil. This is the BBC, the former Secretary of State for Agriculture talking to NIAB, some drones, and Mr. Gove, our current Secretary of State for Agriculture. And we've done this now for 4 years. And this is really, as I say, an opportunity to highlight where these agricultural shows sit in the innovation life cycle. You remember what I said about this model of open innovation being so dependent on the role of the early stage ventures and the startups and then the SMEs. And it was very apparent that if open innovation in agriculture is to work, we need to encourage more startups, more spin-outs, more early stage ventures. So we founded GROW, the UK's first agri-tech business plan competition, which is an opportunity to try and find the farmers, the entrepreneurs, the academics who want to actually try and develop new things and bring them to market. We give people access to funding. There's a cash prize, and we also give people some Mickey Mouse money, some pretend money for the audience to vote to choose their winners. Now, importantly, the judges of this business plan competition are agronomists. They sit in Knowledge Exchange, or they're farmers themselves. You'll hear about Innovate UK at Simon Doherty's talk tomorrow. And these are people who can really stress test and ground truth the commercial potential of these ideas that we see coming through. Importantly, as well as the cash prize, we give the winners and the finalists of the business plan competition access to a number of what we call support award prizes, which are additional things from the ecosystem, as we heard about this morning from the Manage programme, to help maximise their chance of success of their business. So they can choose from a menu to get some free accommodation, some technical and commercial expertise, mentoring and training. There's a prestigious course at the University of Cambridge for agri-entrepreneurship, and access to networks. And the winners get to choose from this menu of support award prizes with the hope and expectation that it will give their companies a real leg up to commercial success. Our very first business plan competition, the winner was developing a UK supply chain for white pea flour for celiacs, which are people who can't tolerate gluten in wheat. He wanted to find a white pea. If you have a green pea, it tastes a bit planty. So he worked with the John Innes Centre to look at their international germplasm collection for peas, and they've now set up a joint venture together. The two runners-up, and I was struck with one of the questions earlier, was to develop an app to try and calculate the impact on soil nutrition of adding livestock slurry via a software app. And the other runner-up was developing dual fuel systems for agricultural machinery. The other two finalists were looking at air purification tech and a data analysis platform for advanced phenomics. Last year's business plan competition, we had a student stream and we had a non-student stream. And the winner was a robotic lettuce harvester from the University of Cambridge, and the non-student was another platform for improving plant performance and field. We seem to have somebody sitting in front of the projector, never mind. And this year's business plan competition, the winners were an online platform connecting the supply chain of producers and buyers in Africa, and a spin-out from the University of Bristol that had developed a water sensor for tumours in breast cancer, who pivoted their technology out of the healthcare industry and saw the benefits to having this in agriculture. As again we heard through the Manage programme, there were very many parallels between our different programmes. Building our online community has been really important to us, so as every self-respecting network organisation, we have a Facebook page, a website and a Twitter account, and I'll give you the contact details of those later. Just one final activity that we run is something that has been a bit of an unprecedented surprise to us in terms of its success, is our Young Innovators Forum. Now, as we heard, there's a bit of a reputational issue with agriculture, that it's not a very attractive sector to go into, and there's much work goes on all over the world trying to encourage young people into agriculture. We're a commercial organisation, and I couldn't see what the business model could be for working with schools and developing skills. So despite it being a personal passion, it's not something that Agritech East does. However, it seemed to me that there was a job to do in terms of raising the cultural awareness between farmers and scientists at quite an early stage in their career. By the time you're a group leader or a head of department, you have a lot of other pressures on your time. This kind of thing has to be done early in your career, during your PhD or postgraduate training, or indeed your management training if you're going to be an estate manager, to walk a mile in the other person's shoes. So we set up this program where we take early career stage scientists out onto the farm, and we take the future leaders and young farmers into the lab, and they just get to understand a bit about each other's lives. And I'll run a series of animations. This is looking at tomato production, robotic tomato production, controlled environment plants, genome sequencing, going into the lab to look at barley, going out of the lab to look at livestock. This was at KWS, the major seed breeders, robotic collection of fruit. We went out to look at some field trials. They all have to stand near a tractor. And this was to a mushroom facility. These are all academics from the University of Cambridge who understand about growing fungi, but not growing fungi in a commercial context as a food crop. And we found that has been really exciting and has had huge appetite. We have 3 branches of our Young Innovators Forum now, because that's really the opportunity where they will be the people of the future who will be developing these collaborations, working around this open innovation, and hopefully we'll be building on the network that we've helped them create. Now, I've talked quite a lot about Agritech East and what we do. There are other organisations, and I'll just mention a couple of them. We have a levy board in the UK. I know other levy boards exist elsewhere, the Agriculture and Horticulture Development Board, and they run a couple of programmes, the Strategic Potato Farm, and this picture is of some farmers out looking at some trials on, I think it was sulphur and nitrogen in that particular picture. And Monitor Farms, where again, building on this premise that we discovered, we weren't the first to discover it, AHDB knew it already and set up Monitor Farms, which is where farmers go to each other's farms and really kind of just get under the skin of each other's businesses and production systems and challenges, and share best practice. And the Soil Association in the UK has set up the Innovative Farmers Programme, and we're coordinating a project. These ideas is to put farmers in the driving seat of research. So the farmers come up with the idea, they come up with the question, and they work with some academics who help them frame the question with some scientific rigour, so that the kind of experiments that are done, they're not high technical experiments, but they are scientifically validated. And we're doing one on the impact of digestate from anaerobic digesters onto soil, and using cover crops to help retain nitrogen in the soil. That's just kicked off. So I hope that's given you an insight into the sort of premise and hypothesis we have around this need for participatory agri-innovation. And we found the really important element is no vested interest. We need to be completely independent, this honest broker. We don't have government funding. We are funded by people paying to be members. We have members based here in India and the West Coast USA. And the idea is that we are completely neutral, but can help connect people with investors, with markets, and with researchers. We also discovered you need space and time to build trust. One of the many mistakes I made in setting up this organization was I had this wonderful idea that there could be an online portal whereby the farmers would say, my problem is this, and the researchers would say, here's the solution. And then the researchers would say, are any farmers interested in this? And the farmers would say, yes, we are. It didn't work. So I've taken down that functionality on the website. It was too early. We'd only been going 3 months. We'd had no traction around this trust, so that was one of our mistakes. So providing this forum, you do need to get people together. We try very hard to scale our activities globally. As I said, we've got members in India and the USA, but you need to have this forum for discussion and ideas exchange. And the other thing that we really mustn't underestimate is the importance of these other enablers, the funders, the regulators, those who are providing the training, because that really is the glue. You can't just throw some farmers and some scientists in a room together and hope that magic will happen. Magic will happen, but it tends not to go anywhere unless you've also got funders and regulators and trainers who are also supporting that ambition. So I'm going to close there with our contact details. I'm here for the next 2 days. We'd be very pleased to talk to anybody who is interested in anything that they've heard this morning, that I've said. So I will leave you with our contact details and our ambition to be a global innovation hub for 21st century agriculture. And I thank you for your attention. Okay. Were there any questions? I think that's a no, everyone's hungry. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Thank you very much for a very informative speech. I would like to ask Dr. Clark to be on the stage, please. The organizers of the Kennes exhibition, the Agritex 2017 wants to, yes, please. The inauguration, yes. And I would like to also invite the speakers onto the dais, Mrs. Usharani Garu as well as Mr. Fleming Garu to come onto the dais. And Prema Zilberman, the organizer for the Agritex event, would try to appreciate our efforts.
Thank you very much. We'll take a tea.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We'll take a tea break, and then the tea is served across